Welcome to the Burda Festival podcast powered by Afikra Podcasts. This episode features a conversation with Eddy Maroun, the co-founder of Anghami. This conversation is about the humble beginnings of the company, where it's going now, and some of the trends that Eddy is seeing in the music industry all across the region. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Welcome, Eddy. Thanks for joining the podcast. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
So, Eddy, it's funny when we think about music in the Arab world, or in this case, in the quote-unquote Islamic world, we usually think about the musicians. We don't usually think about the medium. So I'm curious about if your relationship with music in the region has changed over the last decade since you launched Anghami.
Interesting. First of all, I think that we're all part of one ecosystem, right? So if there's music without musicians or artists, and there's no platform or there's no studios, or so we're really part of one ecosystem, and we complement each other, and each of us does one part of the job, so that this is all like one industry. But I'm really somehow, this is one of the things that gives me some sort of reward, that really Anghami, since its beginning, contributed into really helping this ecosystem. Because before Anghami, the only thing that was out was piracy, especially in this part of the world. And when we started, trust me, people did not really have the culture or have the logic that music is something we pay for or we buy or whatever, or there's some people that make a living out of music, right? So we somehow seeded this thinking or culture, and we've been part of this economy of music or ecosystem. And I think we grew within, and we helped it grow, and also by attracting more and more platforms and digital streaming platforms, and helping creating more aggregators and labels and everything. The whole ecosystem, the whole industry really flourished. And this is something that we're very kind of proud of. And this is very rewarding, because you feel like making an impact, and you're really driving value in marketing content, but also in making money to those creators, etc. So that's how we see ourselves, and we believe that we're all connected. We grow with each other and by supporting each other. That's why you see a lot of initiatives coming out of Anghami towards the creator industry. And as I always say, we're all in the same boat. So either we grow together or we drown.
Yeah. I've listened to a bunch of interviews with you. And usually
I don't do much interviews, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that too. But one of the things that sort of pops up over and over again is this notion that you yourself are a musician. And it's one of the things I feel like is part of the DNA of your work. And so I was curious, do you feel like your core constituency at Anghami are the creators and the musicians, at this point, the podcasters as well? Or is your core constituency the listeners?
I think we sit in the middle of both. Me being a musician somehow helps into really feeling the market. I feel where the artist, producer, musician come from, but also I'm a music consumer. I'm a user as well, so I can understand what the user wants. So I really sit in the middle. And by the way, you can't really build something if you don't have it in your DNA as well. I mean, even Eli, my partner, co-founder, he's a tech person, and you can't really build a product based on tech if you don't have this in your DNA as well. So this is something that is, in my opinion, a prerequisite, right? If I put first the musician or the user, as I mentioned, I mean, if there's no users, there are no musicians, and if there are no musicians, there are no users, and we sit literally in the middle between both. I wear my hat in both cases, but I really enjoy seeing a user that is happy with the Anghami experience, saying that Anghami is my life companion, it changed my life, all of these. Am I also happy when I hear an artist that says that I became somehow more popular through Anghami. You helped me growing this track. I now have this kind of audience. I'm using the artist tools and Anghami artist app to engage more with my audiences. So these things also are rewarding as well. So if
Yeah.
we're in the middle and we're helping both, and this is what drives our growth.
So for our listeners who are unfamiliar with this, can you shed a little light on what is the artist's experience for Anghami, right? So if you're through all the sort of outreach that you guys do, I'm an up and coming singer songwriter in Oman or in Morocco, and I want the world to hear my music. What is the relationship with Anghami that I have? How do I interface with you, and how do I then interface with the users? What is that sort of experience like?
Sure. So first of all, I mean, Anghami is probably the only platform that allows artists to upload their content directly to the platform. Probably YouTube allows that, but Anghami is, among other, pure streaming platform, is the only one. Despite how much this requires in terms of resources and kind of management of this flow, because we cannot accept any content published, but we're making sure that we give those artists, especially those small independent up and coming artists, to have a way to publish their content without always the need to have a third party or an aggregator,
which is huge. That is an enormous thing.
And we created a lot of tools for these, and we have the Anghami for Artists app dedicated for them to have more access to their audiences, to their data, to their trends, so they know really where they're trending, where they're not, and how they can improve their production, content, communication, all of that. Secondly, we're being local, we're present in every major city, and we have people on the ground everywhere. And this is something that we really believe is part of our mission, that we're local and we need to be closer to ecosystem. And I can tell you that we're somehow in some places مقصرين, and we should be doing more. But again, I mean, hopefully soon we'll have more people joining to assist this artist community in everything they need. And I can tell you that we somehow committed to reach out or somehow interact or engage with every artist that reaches out to us. We believe in this help and support to this ecosystem, and we're fully somehow convinced that this is what drives our growth. It's not that we're an NGO or we're helping them just for the sake of helping. No, we have aligned incentives. We grow the artist, we grow his community, we grow his fan base, and this drives back growth our way. So as I mentioned, it's mutual, and of course being local makes us somehow, I mean, it's imperative for us to really be closer to this community. On top of that, we also work with the up and coming and new artists onto bringing opportunities to them in various forms. Like, we do a lot of brand activations in the form of branded content. We connect them with big brands. We create content with them. We create sometimes sessions with them. We have also various plans in the future that allow us to really support them. And we're even thinking, or not thinking, launching initiatives to be closer to them in the offline world. And probably you've heard about our Anghami Lab initiative, which is literally an open door studio, allowing those creators to come and produce, of course, with our support, within our brief, produce content that we help them produce, that we give them the guidance. And this content will become available on the platform, but also available at the Anghami Lab itself with the audiences, so they can see how the reaction is. They can have even a space on stage to perform. So all of these are somehow part of our mission to be more, involved with the local scene and support it online and offline, and grow the whole ecosystem and grow within it.
So I want to go back. That's where we are now and maybe where we're going. But I want to go back to 2012. If you were to explain to a 15-year-old what the essence of the problem that you were solving when Anghami was launched, what do you think the true problem was?
When we started, I mean, there was no proper music experience that would, allow me to listen to music properly in
Yeah.
a with a decent experience, and that is somehow legal. Probably legal as a user. I don't care if it's legal or not,
Yeah.
but everything we had was, piracy and a bunch of websites that give you a crappy experience. So we somehow made it legit. We somehow improved the experience and kept it free, and in the meantime gave you options that if you want more features, if you want offline, if you want lyrics, whatever, you can pay a small fee and you have unlimited access to everything in a nicer experience, in a
Yeah.
great way to consume and share music and really enjoy music in a proper way. And if you want to remain free, you can listen to free, but of course it's going to be subject to some sort of ads. And this is also something that we see, the idea that either it's paid without ads, or you need to, if you want it free, you need to
Listen to some
listen
ads.
and bear with us with some ads. Yeah, that's
So I was hoping that you had mentioned this, but you didn't. So I want to talk to you about it. There is a constituency that seemed to be a core hurdle to deal with in the early days, which is speaking to record labels and really establishing not only a culture of streaming for consumers, but also a culture of streaming for local record labels, and to navigating those legal hurdles and really selling this idea that this is better for music locally.
yeah.
Can you pull back the curtain a little bit and give us an idea of what those conversations were like and what the conversations are now after
Yeah.
the point has been proven?
So interesting point. Actually, when we started, even globally, streaming was still experimental, right? And labels were somehow not 100% convinced that this is going to be a model that can generate enough money to offset whatever they were making out of CD sales, physical in general, and out of the download that was mostly driven by iTunes. So that was really challenging times. And I think that when we came to the region, we had the same challenge, but the advantage we had is that there was no other, valid propositions. And we came with a proposition whereby we said, look, guys, we're trying to do something. Everyone else failed. And this is what we can put on the table. We're serious about it. Either you make it happen, or you're gonna remain with piracy. And of course, we have our somehow track record. We come from I have a music background. I've been dealing with labels. Eli is a tech guy, so we had something that sounded solid, and we managed to convince them. Plus, we were putting money on the table. It wasn't like free of charge, right? So our commitment and our somehow background expertise, and somehow they saw that we're on something that might work, got them to jump in. Now they're not difficult; they are very difficult. As time passed, and streaming became, as I say, mainstream, things became more on a standardized globally. And of course, every label has a streaming, a monetization somehow strategy, and streaming became at the core and became the largest revenue stream. So it became the obvious, became the beginning. Yeah, it wasn't that straightforward, but now it becomes like more of a negotiation, more of a as I call it, frenemy, relationship, because the
Yeah.
label has to squeeze as much as he can to make the best margins out of you, and and you wanna do the other thing. But in the meantime, we're friends because we are growing each other and we need each other. So it's somehow love and hate relationship. But at the end, I mean, we are keen on uh, keeping the best relationship, because after all, we all know that we are bound to be working together.
Yeah.
I cannot walk away from the negotiation with a label without closing it, and vice versa. They cannot be missing on a whole region, on a major platform, or for the whole region. So this creates some sort of balance in the discussion. But things have shifted from convincing them, into coming into streaming, to now we just negotiate. the terms and the deals and how we're going to work together and how we can help them and how they can help us, so we can, bring growth. And at the core, there's the artist as well. How can we really, do the best for this artist and bring him to his maximum potential?
Yeah. There's a third sort of leg to this, which we're seeing come back post-COVID, which is live performances. And one of the pieces that streaming services have, as they've made their case to record labels and to artists over the years, is that, okay, give it away for free in a freemium type way now, but you'll make it up at the door, right? You'll make it up in ticket sales. Through popularity, you'll make it up. In some places in the Arab world, we don't have a culture of live performances. That's changing. From your perspective, your unique perspective, what is the nature of that change and that evolution? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not changing as much as I think.
No, you're absolutely right. Actually, live or how we call it, offline and online, are pretty much they converge. They feed into each other and they grow within each other. They're both part of one industry, which is music and entertainment on a bigger level. This has been very clear during COVID, and we've never seen this because it never happened. When all live entertainment stopped, major labels, even the smaller ones, found it very difficult for them to break artists, to make small up and coming artists become stars. And they realized that this is due to, the lack of, or to the complete absence of offline. And everyone realized that these really two industries are very complementary and they feed into each other. In our case, the beginning we were so much focused on streaming and streaming only. We're always kind of even obsessed by being focused on the core so that we don't, get diluted and distracted in so many things. But now our growth strategy, especially that we're going public, offline is becoming a core growth strategy in our future plans. And we believe that Anghami as a platform can play a role not just in the digital and virtual world. It can also have a role in the offline world, in the concerts and events and all of these things.
The Live Nation world.
Absolutely. And build conversion between those two worlds and somehow let them help each other, because we are seeing that the offline world lacks a lot of the technology aspect, the things we can bring into the table, be it from live streaming, ticketing, gimmicks that we can put in terms of how you can upgrade, upsell, giving access to the offline concert to be available online as well, replay. All of these things do not exist, or is not part of the expertise or DNA of the offline industry. In the meantime, the digital industry is somehow very far from the actual offline concert performance live industry, which is closer to the heart of fans and artists, and probably better when it comes to monetization and so on and so forth. So Anghami now is becoming like this platform that want to bring in both those worlds and try to grow both and grow the conversion between both. And I can tell you that we're gonna see announcements around offline in the form maybe of acquisitions or partnerships. And Anghami Lab is one of these, because Anghami Lab is also offline performances live brought online as well. And there's this conversions whereby you can play offline and music becomes online, so you have both exposure, and we play a role in both. And even if you're in Anghami Lab, you can use Anghami to vote, you can book a table, you can have access to whatever. So all of these opportunities that can be unlocked by bridging both worlds are very exciting, and I see there are tremendous opportunities. I'm very excited, optimistic, and bullish about.
That makes a lot of sense. I was thinking about that. There is some quote on your website, right? Maybe I always look at mission statements. I think mission statements are very revealing. There's something about this idea of elevating the value of the music industry. Do you think this is a uniquely Arab world problem? And the reason why I say that is because this podcast is for the Al Burda Festival, which is focused on the quote unquote sort of Islamic arts and culture. Yeah. And the Arab world is a part of the Islamic world, but the Islamic world is huge. It includes East Africa, it includes Asia, it includes Europe, it includes the whole world. So I'm curious if Anghami is part of the growth strategy is thinking about the broader, the sort of adjacent overlapping regions that the Arab world is a part.
Absolutely. First of all, I think that, as you mentioned, this whole industry in the region is nascent. It's growing. If you look, for example, to what's happening in Saudi Arabia, music was banned. Now music is at the core of everything and is being subsidized by the government, and huge initiatives and plans and investments are being made in creating a music industry from, teaching music at schools to having the biggest festival. So the industry is, and even in the UAE, in every country, you see that there's bigger attention towards the entertainment and the creator economy and music specifically. And because there are ways to not just to monetize music. If you look historically, what in the past 2 decades, music was struggling big time. Music industry was completely distressed and was losing big time. Now it went back to growth because of streaming. So in the piracy age, everyone somehow walked away from music. Now in the streaming age, music became much more valuable and is somehow generating pretty good yields. So it can be a decent industry. This can be, create jobs to a lot of people.
I just listened to the documentary about the Beatles, the Get Back, the new Peter Jackson documentary about the Beatles. And George Harrison was talking about before the Beatles went to America in 1964 or whatever it was, the UK had a trade deficit. The trade imbalance, they imported more than they exported. Once the Beatles went to the US, they had a trade surplus, all sort of pushed by that specific industry. So when we think about the music industry, it is an economic argument.
It is an industry in so many countries. In our Arab world, we don't really see this, but it's coming. It's happening because the ecosystem is starting to develop and start to become available, because now there's an industry, and the industry grows with investments, with ways to create content and monetize this content when it comes to music. So this is something that is happening and coming. I don't know what was the question here? Somehow forgot. Because
about the sort of the other different regions. I'm curious. Essentially, the point that I'm looking at is: are there other regions that Anghami is trying to appeal to that overlap the Arab world?
So yes. First of all, we believe that the Arab diaspora has a huge potential. It's big in terms of size and in terms of affinity to Arabic music. When you're Arab living in the US or Canada or whatever, you have much more nostalgia to whatever brings you back home. So I think Anghami can fill this somehow need, and we have a proposition that can be relevant to this particular audience, and we're planning to have this part of our growth plans. We've never, unfortunately, invested in any of this audience, but we have a significant number of subscribers coming from, we call it, rest of the world. This is going to be part of our growth plans moving forward. There are other areas that, since we're talking about Islamic content, and given that spiritual and Islamic content is quite developed and is growing. And by the way, this is something we take very seriously, especially during the months of Ramadan. We create a filter in the app whereby you can filter out everything that is music and listen only to spiritual and Islamic content. So this can represent a subscription by itself for those who want this particular content only, and we're specialized in it, in the overall global Islamic world. So
Yeah.
we're exploring this option of having across the world this kind of subscription for Islamic content only for Muslims across the world, especially that Muslims are all connected with one language, which is the language of the Holy Quran, which is Arabic. So this makes it more universal. And again, I mean, I'm not. This is a plan. We haven't rolled yet, but this might be also might see the light in the coming year.
Cool. I want to ask you some stats, which I don't expect you to know off the top of your head, but if you can sort of ballpark them, it would be useful. So, of the 57 million plus songs on the platform, what do you think, if you were just to guess, pull them out of the air, what would you guess is the breakdown of Arabic music to sort of international music?
Well, this has been one of the most shocking slides in our investor deck when we announced to go in public. We were highlighting how much gap and how much lack of Arabic content there is. You know that Arabic music, all of the Arabic music represents just 1% of what we have on the platform.
Wow.
Just 1% in terms of volume. Whereas in terms of consumption, it represents 50% of the consumption.
You're kidding me.
So this is somehow a clear kind of, I mean, if you look at the numbers, you'd say that, okay, there's lack of Arabic content. There's very few content that's generating that much traction. So let's create more content, right? Let's create more Arabic content. And that was the main kind of eye-opener, that main driver for us to, part of our growth plans, to invest in content and have clear strategies around content and Arabic and local content. This content could be somehow influenced by the Western world, but this has to have Arabic flavor. And here also based on the data and how much we see in terms of trends and how much we're exposed to, given that we're collecting all these data points out of our users, we know exactly what type of content we should be creating, in which way, using which instrument rhythms, a scale, even structure, so that this particular content resonate well with these audiences. Because there might be a lot of content, but you really need the right content that really resonate with the youth.
Would you say that Anghami knows more about what music the Arab world listens to more than anyone else?
Absolutely. That's our forte, by the way. And this is something we special. I mean, Anghami collects more than 50 million data points. Yeah. We know exactly each artist, where he's trending, who are his audiences, how they listen to it, which artists have a higher completion rate, which artist has the highest number of followers, his engagement is higher. And we know what type of content is trending and where. And even, the way the content is created is somehow very different. For example, when we create content, one of my first briefs to our producers and artists working with, etc., no more long intros. The attention span of people is getting even shorter and shorter. So you need to hit directly with your message. Your time to get the hook of users is getting shorter. Yeah. Gone are the days of those long intros of the likes of When They Speak or whatever, right? So things have changed. The way we consume, the patterns, the habits, everything has changed, and it's reflected in music. Even you notice that the songs are shorter now, right? Yeah. So even in the way you arrange music, you create music, you need to be somehow data driven. You need to follow the trend, the habits, and all of that.
I was listening to this nostalgic interview that made me nostalgic at sort of, I think it was ArabNet 2012 or 14, when you just got the MEVP funding. And you were talking about the challenges of integrating with Facebook's API. And saying, oh, we're looking into it, we're trying to figure it out, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen, assuringly saying it's going to happen. So my question is, what are some of the new integrations that are coming around the bend? If I swipe up on Instagram and I click the music link and I want to include some rapper from Saudi, I'm not going to find him.
Yeah. So speaking of the beginnings, as you mentioned, when you're small, when you're just started, I mean, this is one of the challenges when you're starting up something. Not everyone takes you seriously, right? Especially when you're like giant, like Facebook, whatever.
Yeah.
So this is part of the challenges. Once you start, building traction, they start identifying you and start taking you more seriously. And therefore, you can do those whatever integrations, partnerships, etc., etc. So yeah, these are the challenges of the beginnings. And thank God sometimes you still need to to push yourself with the big platforms, but now we're at a stage where thank God we're well known for as the dominant player in the region, and we're working with everyone. We're available. We believe that we have to be available not in every mobile phone, but in every device, in every TV, car, speaker. Even moving forward, it's gonna be other devices. So this is part of our product development roadmap, but this also requires resources, right? So, but I think that we've done a good job being available in every device, as any global platform.
Can I go back to some of the stats, because I find it really, really very, very fascinating. So 1% accounts for 1% of the songs account for 50% of the listens. And the 1%, the Arabic 1%, of that 1%, how much of it is sort of the classic catalog, the classic catalog versus the new music being produced?
Depends on the age bracket, on the audience, and on the country.
Yeah.
So if you take, for example, hip hop and Arabic hip hop, you see that this is more on the age bracket between 15 and 20. Whereas, and in this region, whereas if you look at the classics you're referring to, you see that they're much more popular with the 35 plus, even 40 plus, and especially very popular outside of the region, because those people, as I mentioned, that
nostalgic.
Still, nostalgic to the Fairuz and mostly Lebanese, and Egyptian nostalgic to Egypt, listen to Kulthum, that brings them back home. So you see that those, genres or categories are more popular in these. So it depends on the audience, but the vast majority is after, mainstream, right?
Yeah.
Mainstream Arabic music is what the mainstream audience listens to. But you see that the other genres over-indexed based on certain territories and certain genres.
If you were to sort of predict what quote unquote Arabic music sounds like in 10 years, A, do you have a feeling of what you think it sounds like? And B, how confident is that guess?
Difficult question, because it's changing a lot. It's morphing a lot. But I can tell you that, and it's something that is, it's a part of a plan, that there will be global hits coming out of this part of the world. There are serious investments and work happening at the level of global music labels and local ones, and really putting proper plans and resources to break Arabic music globally. So expect the next Despacito to come part of this world with an international Arabic collaboration.
So the idea is
and
that
I don't think that's gonna take 10 years for it to reach that level. If you look at K-pop, how it became like a global sensation. Now the top, the most selling artist or band in the world now, it's BTS. It's coming from Korea. So you wouldn't think of it like 2 years ago. So I think that Arabic music, it's not just I think, this is at the level of the biggest labels. They believe that Arabic music has everything, has all the ingredients really to become a global phenomena and sensation.
Yeah.
Now, how will it sound? I think that it's gonna have this Oriental flavor, which makes it really special and amazing, and with the international flavor and twist.
It's like this Arabic reggaeton.
No, you can't really be that specific.
It's but that idea, right?
So but it's gonna be maybe Arabic deep house, maybe Arabic Latin somehow, maybe reggaeton, as you mentioned. Maybe
I don't mean reggaeton sonically. I mean the same way like somebody from the Dominican Republic, when they listen to what I think of as reggaeton, they would say, this is not reggaeton, this is like international
Latin,
flavor stuff, right?
Yeah. But it's reggaeton, yeah.
But like Shakira or this type of stuff, right?
Yeah, what we refer to Latin.
Exactly. Interesting. The second
And
question,
Latin, by the way, is an example. Latin was not as big as it is today with the Malumas. So all of these genres are exotic to the global audiences, and they're getting good traction when they're created properly and marketed properly.
Okay, so the second part of that question is, what role does Anghami play in not only observing those trends and benefiting from those trends, but actually creating those trends? Insofar as to say, to select the artists, to push the artists, to promote the artists, to almost even groom the artists to say, hey, we want you to do this. This is the recipe. We know how to get you to 100 million views, 1 billion views. We know how to get you there.
Absolutely. This is what we do every day. Whenever we have a release, we try to see how we can work around this release to market it properly to the right audience with the right message, so that we can bring in the highest number of plays and etc. So this is part of our everyday job, and this is part of our also ways to grow within these audiences. Now, what's our role growing the new neo-Arabic music, if you want to call it, globally? I think that this is part of our goals as well, and this is gonna drive growth. And we have everything needed, and we're somehow the most suited for such kind of thing, because we're perceived globally as the world's biggest Arabic platform, and we have everything to make it happen. And what we were somehow lacking was the content creation engine, right? That we've added recently and we're scaling now. And part of the verticals we're going into is creating a record label.
I was about to ask you this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is gonna be, by the way, this is not also announced, but I think by December it's gonna be public. So we're gonna be creating an independent entity with another global label that's gonna be creating content in an independent way, but using whatever support we can bring in terms of data marketing, artist relations, all of this. So this will help us as well, contribute to what you were referring to as being part of the evolution of this genre of music and taking it from the region to the world.
Because in some ways, the choice to allow people to upload their music directly, whether it's an independent artist in Tunisia, or it doesn't matter, right? Or a podcaster, allowing them to upload directly supplants the role of a label in some way, right? Because it's instant distribution on a platform that distributes globally.
Well, we're not doing it to somehow bypass the label, but we're, on the contrary, we're giving a chance for those small artists, for those bedroom producers who have some work, some talent, to make it, available on a platform after validating that they really, created this content. They're not just copying something or just, faking, uploading content that's not there. So we're giving them a chance to reach audiences. And remember that, this is personal. When I was a producer at home, I used to struggle to get, people listen to whatever I produced. So if I had the, chance to publish it on a platform like Anghami and, have many people discover it and like it and grow within it, probably I would become like just a musician or producer. That wasn't available at the time. So this is part of also of our, mission to really support the ecosystem and grow it. Although I can tell you that this is somehow really exhausting from a management and resources point of view, because this requires the team in place, requires some tools that we need to maintain to make sure that the flow is working properly.
Yeah. The last question I'll leave you with before I let you go is, in about 10, 15 years, what do you think the sort of cruising altitude is for that dynamic, the sort of breakdown, the percentage breakdown. Would you like to see it to the point where Anghami has 50-50, 25-75 in terms of Arabic, non-Arabic music? What is the sweet spot?
I hope that we can see more Arabic than international, because this means that we're going to be or Arabic music is becoming even more popular. Now, clearly, given the nature of our platform, and Arabic is gonna always be dominant, but growing the Arabic versus international would make us happy, because this means that we're able to make a difference and be different than other DSPs and so on. Add to that this will somehow reflect that Arabic music is actually growing and is reaching a bigger audience and being consumed more and more. So yes, I mean this can be something that would make us happy.
Eddy, thanks so much for joining. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for pulling back the curtain and letting us know the challenges that you guys are facing.
Thank you, Mikey. Interesting, and I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I hope to see you at the festival. For more information, go to burda.ae. That is burda.ae. The festival runs from December 19th to the 21st at the Dubai Exhibition Center as part of Expo 2020 Dubai. The festival is organized by the Ministry of Culture and Youth, UAE, and this podcast is powered by Afikra Podcasts. Take care.